You might earn $200,000 a year, yet you are functionally as broke as someone earning $40,000 because your lifestyle has expanded to consume every cent of your progress. To escape this, you have to understand the specific concept of the 5% threshold. Most individuals never realize that their financial survival is determined by the small margin of capital they keep, not the large sum they move. If you cannot master the silent rules of capital, you will remain a high-income pauper, forever running on a treadmill that moves faster every time you get a raise. Wealth is not a number. It is a psychological state and a series of invisible laws that the majority of the population is never taught to see. The reason 99% of people fail to build significant wealth is not due to a lack of effort. It is due to a depletion of cognitive bandwidth. When you live in a cycle of constant consumption and debt, your brain is forced into a permanent state of high alert. This creates what psychologists call a scarcity mindset. In this state, your ability to make long-term logical decisions is physically impaired. You begin to focus on immediate survival and short-term gratification because your nervous system is overwhelmed by the pressure of your obligations. You become reactive instead of proactive. This is further intensified by the crab bucket effect. When you decide to stop participating in the standard middle-class consumer culture, the people in your social circle will often attempt to pull you back down. They will frame your frugality as a lack of ambition or your discipline as a sign of being boring. They do this because your progress acts as a mirror to their own stagnation. If you do not recognize these psychological pressures, you will continue to make choices that serve your social standing while destroying your financial future. To understand how capital truly functions, we can look at the physics of escape velocity. In aerospace engineering, escape velocity is the speed an object must reach to break free from the gravitational pull of a planet. If the object moves too slowly, it eventually falls back to the surface. Your capital operates in the exact same way. Think of your savings as a compound interest engine. In the beginning, the engine requires an immense amount of fuel just to produce a tiny amount of movement. This is the hardest part of the journey. Most people quit here because they do not see immediate results. They save $10,000 and realize it only generates a few $100s in interest over a year. They assume the effort is not worth the reward, so they spend the money on a vacation or a car. What they failed to realize is that they were just a few miles per hour away from breaking the gravitational pull. Once you reach the point where your assets generate more income than your labor, you have achieved financial escape velocity. At that stage, the momentum of the engine becomes self-sustaining. The math of compounding is not linear, it is exponential. The greatest gains are backloaded, meaning they appear at the end of the timeline. To get there, you must be willing to endure the friction of the early stages without losing focus. Let us compare two different approaches to capital through the lives of David and Sarah. David is a successful consultant who earns a high six-figure salary. He follows the standard rules of the middle class. He bought a large home in a prestigious neighborhood, drives a luxury SUV with a heavy monthly payment, and spends his weekends at expensive restaurants to decompress from his high-stress job. On paper, David looks wealthy. In reality, he is fragile. His cognitive bandwidth is entirely consumed by maintaining his image. If he loses his job, he has less than 3 months of runway before his life collapses. Sarah earns 30% less than David, but she understands the silent rules of capital. She lives in a modest apartment and drives a reliable vehicle that she paid for in cash. She treats every dollar as a productive unit of energy. Sarah funnels her surplus into assets that produce cash flow. For the first 5 years, Sarah's life looked much less impressive than David's. However, by year 10, the income from Sarah's investments covered her entire cost of living. Sarah achieved refusal power. She can walk away from any situation that does not serve her. David is trapped by his own success, forced to keep working a job he dislikes to fund a lifestyle that provides no lasting satisfaction. The difference is that Sarah prioritized the engine, while David prioritized the exhaust. As you begin to build your own engine, you will inevitably hit the great filter. This is a phase of the journey where the traps of success become more dangerous than the traps of poverty. Once you have a significant amount of capital, the world will try to take it from you. You will face intense social pressure to upgrade your life. You will be told that you have earned the right to spend. This is a false narrative designed to keep you within the system. High-level capital requires a bulletproof vest. This is a safety net consisting of liquid cash that sits in a boring, low-interest account. Its purpose is not to grow. Its purpose is to protect your psychology. When you have a massive cash reserve, you do not panic during market downturns. You do not make desperate decisions when your car breaks down. This vest allows you to stay in the game while everyone else is being forced out. Without it, you are always vulnerable to the volatility of life. The biggest threat to your wealth is not the stock market. It is your own desire to look successful before you actually are. The blueprint for mastering capital is simple, but it is not easy. The first step is to establish establish your refusal power. This means lowering your overhead to a point where you are no longer dependent on any single source of income. It requires a ruthless audit of your expenses and a total rejection of status-seeking behavior. The second step is to build your bulletproof vest. You need 12 months of living expenses in cash before you even think about aggressive investing. This is the foundation of your financial fortress. The third step is to automate your compound interest engine. You must treat your investments as a non-negotiable expense, like a mortgage or a tax bill. You pay your future self first, and you live on what remains. The fourth step is to develop a specialized skill that allows you to increase your primary income without increasing your time commitment. This creates the surplus fuel needed to accelerate your journey to escape velocity. The fifth and final rule is to stay invisible. Real wealth is silent. It does not need to roar. It does not need a logo on a shirt or a badge on a car. It is the quiet confidence of knowing that you own your time and your choices. Most people will read these words and agree with the logic, but they will not change their behavior. They are too deeply invested in the social game to step away. They fear being judged by people whose opinions do not actually matter. But if you want a life that 99% of people will never have, you must be willing to do what 99% of people are unwilling to do. You must be willing to be the person who looks average while building something extraordinary behind the scenes. This is a test of your intellectual and emotional maturity. Capital is a mirror. It reflects your true priorities. If you spend it, you prioritize the present. If you invest it, you prioritize the future. The path to high-level capital is a contract you sign with yourself. It is a commitment to delayed gratification and rational decision-making. It is the realization that money is a tool for freedom, not a scorecard for ego. If you are serious about breaking the financial gravity well, you must be willing to make a sacrifice that others find uncomfortable. You have to decide if you want the appearance of wealth or the reality of freedom. One is a performance for an audience that does not care about you. The other is a gift to your future self that will change the trajectory of your life forever. I am challenging you to make a definitive move today. I want you to look at your current lifestyle and identify one significant expense that is serving your ego rather than your future. It might be a membership you don't use, a habit of buying lunch every day, or a lease on a car that is too expensive for your goals. I want you to commit to cutting that expense for the next year and redirecting every cent of those savings into your bulletproof vest. Do not just think about it, declare it. Write down exactly what you are sacrificing in the comments below. By stating it publicly, you are turning a vague intention into a formal contract. You are telling your future self that your freedom is more important than your comfort. The silent rules of capital are waiting for you to follow them. The question is whether you have the discipline to listen. Commit to the sacrifice. Build the vest. Start the engine. The path to escape velocity begins with the very next dollar you choose not to spend.